Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas. This is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out to the subscribers to this podcast. We have hit 6K, 6,000 subscribers to this podcast. So it doesn't, on YouTube, so it doesn't matter if you got to this podcast through this weekly news and perspectives podcast or any of the specials we've done, like recently. Shout out to the homie Ak. I did a live stream about the movie Sinners. Now, I know you may be saying to yourself, first of all, why wasn't it on audio? Well, because I made some mistakes with audio. So there's that. But also, if you haven't seen the movie, for one, it's a spoiler podcast, but we get into the musical themes and how they relate to hip hop music in this podcast. So obviously, we give our review of the movie just as fans of film, which I'm not going to lie, I kind of enjoy reviewing films. I just don't know if I have the capacity to do a separate movie review podcast, but I do watch all the movies that, you know, most people are checking for. Some people aren't. So it would be interesting. But this live stream was strictly about the Sinners movie, what we felt about the movie, and again, the musical themes that relate to hip hop and music in general. So check that out. It's on the channel. You know, if you want to see what was what, I'll also have it at the end of the episode on YouTube, so you can click. Those listening in audio form who would like to check that out, it will be in the description of the podcast as far as you getting to the YouTube channel. That's what I mean. So definitely check that out. But also big shout out to new viewers who have, you know, maybe the shorts I post got you here. And again, those who are a little slow, I know, you know, my audience a little older. They're not that old. They like around my age or a little bit older. But we got some youngins in here too. The shorts are literally like, let's just say this. If you ever heard of the term doom scrolling, that's when, like, let's say whether it's TikTok, Instagram stories, Snapchat, like all these places that got short form videos, Facebook has them now. But YouTube Shorts is another one of those things. And you could literally, like, based off of who you follow alone, you could literally spend a crazy amount of time just flipping through content, just watching quick videos. So on this channel, we didn't necessarily do that. You know, it was stuff here and there that I would produce, short form videos. But on Instagram, for those who follow my Instagram, it's a great source for not only what I'm currently listening to. If you want to know what's out, follow me on Instagram at Vegas World Inc. I literally listen to albums that could potentially be to your liking. I won't say that I like everything I listen to, but I'm putting my ear to it. You know, most recent joints I've played, I kind of like the Too Short album. I'm not even gonna hold you. I know if you've been listening to Too Short for years, maybe you're like, yeah, oh, he used to do that back in the 90s and the 80s. Or you might feel like, I'm glad he's getting back to it. And I kind of enjoyed it. Best of the year for me, not really, but depending on what comes out this year, it could be on that list of some of the best of the year. But we'll see when, you know, we're currently in the deliberation of, is that the word? Of 2025. And in June, we'll probably, I believe we reached the halfway point because the second quarter ends, and then we'll start talking about the best of the year so far. And there's a couple of joints that are on that list already for me, as far as like what I listen to, like heavy, along with, you know, potentially an album I'm talking about. a little bit later in this episode. So, with that being said, shout out to hiphopdx.com, Ambrosia for Heads, Double XL Mag, and a couple of places where I got my stories from. Let's get right into the business, though. So, quite honestly, I stumbled across this story doing what I said earlier. Just on, I think I was on TikTok. Oh, hold up. This is not even working. Hold up. Okay. I was on TikTok and doom scrolling, right? TikTok, I follow a lot of sports. So typically that's, I'm kind of absorbing short form videos as it relates to sports. But there's a couple of hip hop joints sprinkled in there. And then, sometimes they will reference something you might like. So I saw the title first, and it said Rhymefest says that Eminem called him the N word during a rap battle in the 90s. Now, at first, I was like, what? So, well, two things, right? First, I'm like, he did, and he like didn't get stomped out. And then two, the fact that Eminem was battling Rhymefest was crazy because I was just like, word? Like, I would love to have heard that. So I watched the interview, and let me see if I could find real quick where it was. Uh, this was him appearing on the podcast, is just my opinion. But this is coming from Hip Hop DX, and this is me quoting Rhymefest from that interview. I battled Eminem in '98 at this competition called Scribble Jam in Cincinnati. It was the biggest battle in the Midwest and one of the biggest rap battles in the country. And a lot of famous rappers, DJs, and breakdancers came out of Scribble Jam. I battled Eminem, and that was the first time a white guy ever called me a N-word, he said. Now they're quoting him as Nigga, right? I'll let my this is what Eminem said to him. I'll let my razor split you till they have to staple stitch you. This N-word took my facial tissue, turned it into a racial issue. Rhymefest said to hearing that, you couldn't even be mad. I realized something about racism that day is why Family Guy works. It's only good when it's funny. It only is non-offensive when it's dope. Had you said that ish and it's not dope, it would have been a problem. But you so cold and courageous that you did it and got away with it. But when I say I won that battle, he won the war. So you could check this out. As a matter of fact, I saw the clip through the Art of Dialogue, I believe, posted it on social media, and I watched that. Now, how do I feel about it? How do you feel about it? Leave your comments in the comment section below. I know some people, they don't care if you saying the hard ER, pause, I guess, or the GGA version of it. Now, Rhymefest here is saying he meant it in the way to say the Nigga, right? That's how he pronounced it. So I think that's more why he got away with it, right? Some people don't play with you at all with any of it, any spelling, any version, right? But I think that's what like kept everybody hands at bay, and the fact that it was a slick line, right? Because I'm thinking, because Ron Fest didn't say this, or at least I didn't see it in the clip. I'm thinking he said something, you white boy, blah 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 blah, blah white boy, blah blah, and that was Eminem's rebuttal, right? So it is slick, it is cold. Ron Fest says he won the battle, which I could believe. Ron Fest is dope, you know what I'm saying? Especially you talking '98. And him saying Eminem won the war is like, well, look at him as a MC and as a successful rapper versus Rhymefest, which isn't a knock on Rhymefest at all. It's just sometimes it plays out like that, right? That's like a street baller who gets the best of an NBA player, but that's Kobe Bryant, right? Like you crossed up Kobe, cool, but that that's Kobe. He's doing it on a level that you aren't able to achieve. So I think I felt more of a way about the audio that Benzino leaked a couple years ago, where Eminem had like a black girlfriend and she dumped him or cheated on him or something like that, and he made this hate filled, fueled rhyme as a teenager. And I just didn't like what he was saying. I didn't care what age he was, blah blah blah. I just was not feeling it. And he apologized, and he didn't really even talk about, he didn't make an excuse as, I was a teenager and blah blah blah, and I'm stupid and I was young and I was hurt and I wanted to make her feel pain in the deepest way possible. So that's what I came up with. But I think apologizing for something that you did as a teenager, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I know there's some high horse people. I know some of y'all were perfect from day one and continue to remain perfect on social media and all of that. But I know I did and said some terrible terrible things that I would never say today. And if I ever hurt somebody, whatever it would have been, I would apologize. There's not even enough of an apology I could make at that point in time. So I forgave him after a while, because at the end of the day, you can't kill people who understand their mistakes, right? You got to give people a time to come back. And it's just not for Eminem and a racial issue. I'm just talking about in general. Like you can't, some people deserve it. Some people definitely deserve to go down getting stomped on. But that's kind of how I feel about Kanye. I feel like Kanye needs help. I feel like he's looking for the thing that will get people most riled up. It's almost like he wants to be broke again in order to feel whole again. Bars. But that's what it feels like, right? Like I'm just going to say whatever gets people to look at me in headlines and me drop an album, and I just keep saying stuff and you just know something's wrong. So this whole situation with Rhymefest and Eminem, I think, is a non-situation, mainly because the crowd mostly didn't react according to Rhymefest in a way that felt like they were offended. Um, and him saying, when it's funny means I think everybody laughed it off. But also he was saying it to Rhymefest. So if he didn't take offense to it in that moment, and we're not talking about, well, Rhymefest didn't take offense to it because he wanted an opportunity with Eminem, because blah blah blah. Nah, we ain't talking about the same cat. We talking about like Eminem blew up after this. We talking about spitters getting in a battle. And a battle, not a beef. I wish you young cats would stop saying a beef. Just go listen to Biggie's song off of Life After Death. What's beef? Listen to what he's saying. Listen to just the hook. Even if you feel like this is old, I don't want to hear it. Listen to just the hook. Those are beefs. A YN tell you to move from that corner, and you don't, and they blaze at you and you blaze back. I don't know if blaze is like a pause word now. I don't know. I just didn't want to say the other word on YouTube. But beef is beef. Let's not substitute the word battle that's been a part of hip hop for more than 50 years for beef because of what happened, Big and Pac, like all of this stuff. They turn everything into a beef. Nas and Jay-Z didn't necessarily have a beef. You can say, oh, well, they have a beef with each other because they don't like each other. Yeah, sure, but what's happening is a rap battle. Like that's what it is. So I don't know. How do you feel about Eminem using the N word in that context, in that setting during a battle? Do you feel like in battle rap, personals is par for the course? And you've heard people talk about opponents' dead parents, locked up parents, people being snitches, all kind of personals thrown at each other. Where a couple times things get risky, but they typically don't get out of hand uh, in rap battles when you're throwing personals, depending on what he said. Now, if Eminem would have said, "What's the dude from Seinfeld who thought he was doing a bit?" You know, if this was back in the day, he said this to a heckler while he was on stage. You know, if it was back in the days, you'd be in chains, and it was like, oh, he was lucky that black man was holding it down because in any other setting, it would have been hands and feet. Next story. Not that long ago, bars. RZA, and that's how I heard it. I don't know if there was another official announcement before that, but how I heard it, RZA announced there will be a new Wu-Tang Clan album in 2025. People rejoiced, got hyped. I personally got hyped because I had just finished listening to RZA's interview with Rick Ross, which was fantastic. I know some people have watched RZA do interviews, but I think he was a little bit more transparent with his thoughts and the history of the Wu and you know things he's done because he was talking to Rick Rubin. And so I found it fascinating. It was like 2 hours or so, and I listened to all of it. You know, which I typically don't do when it comes to audio podcasts. I just be like, all right, dog. You know, I'm gonna listen to 1 hour and then I might come back for another hour of this podcast. But later on, him announcing that the Wu would have a new album. It was just the way he said it. I was like, yeah, the Wu is back. Maybe this time it would be better. But then he said, and this was a follow up joint, a follow up press release or whatever, or interview. He said Mathematics would be doing the production, and I was like, well, wait a minute. RZA's announcing a RZA, the master behind the sound of Wu-Tang Clan since 1993, asterisk, solo albums, Wu-Tang albums in particular, is announcing a new Wu-Tang album, but he's not on the boards for all of it. Now I know to some Wu-Tang faithfuls, like, well, it's not a Wu-Tang album. It's not something I want to hear. If RZA ain't on the boards, I don't want to hear it. And I feel you because I felt a little bamboozled. But then I remembered recent Wu-Tang Clan group albums from Mathematics are better than recent Wu-Tang Clan albums produced by RZA. That's all facts. We've seen it. Probably more so. Like I'm the type where the W was cool. Like, well, let's just go through it real quick, right? 36, we already know. Certified classic. Wu-Tang Forever, probably a classic to most. Also, all RZA. You know, that first suite of solo albums from Clan members, iconic beats, all different from each other, from RZA to Raekwon to ODB to Method Man. RZA. But then as the group albums started to go on, things started to get a little shifty, right? The W. I wasn't the biggest fan of the W, but it was cool, right? I felt like RZA was going, he was going places that musically I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I like this. But then Iron Flag, which I thought more people liked when it came out, I thought it was cool, was a good album to me. But then the Wu-Tang albums took a nosedive after that. And I'm talking about the official RZA-backed albums like Eight Diagrams and A Better Tomorrow. Not good. Not good at all. And I remember like trying to convince myself that, yo, you kind of sleeping on, you know, where RZA's trying to go with the production. This is the Wu-Tang Clan. This is official. RZA did the beats. Let's go. Nah, man. I listened to those albums so many times trying to find something good in it. And I just had to realize it wasn't. But Mathematics, who has been producing for the Wu and Wu members throughout the years. For example, one I use that always make hip hop heads who want to argue otherwise. He did Ghostface's Mighty Healthy off of Supreme Clientele. And a lot of people think because RZA was involved as an executive producer, RZA ain't do all the beats on Supreme Clientele. Like a lot of the beats that I thought he did, he didn't do. You know what I'm saying? And Mathematics did Mighty Healthy, right? Which is one of Ghostface's dopest songs in his catalog. But more importantly, the last Wu-Tang project produced by Mathematics was, I believe, Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, which I felt like was kind of slept on because it wasn't produced by RZA. Album cover was dope, features were dope, song beats were cool. Like it felt like the Wu that you're looking for as far as sonically. And before I get into this new album and my review of it, I'll just say this when it comes to RZA. In that Rick Rubin interview, and I know it didn't start there because he's probably said this on numerous occasions, but he reiterates that at one point he felt like, yo, I have to keep moving forward as a producer. I have to do something new. I'm not into retreading ground that I've already covered. I get that people have an appetite for that, but I'm always moving forward. And I think that explains why there was so much tension between like Raekwon and RZA about the sound, because RZA's trying to expand upon what he created all those years ago, and not really copy it. And Raekwon saying, well, I don't want you to copy it, but there's a particular sound that people have become accustomed to when it comes to the Wu, and it's boom bap in RZA style of boom bap. So it makes sense that Mathematics is more of like a compromise where RZA, who is featured on his album, rapping, sounding good also, is like, okay, well, it seems the fans, based on how they've received 8 diagrams and Better Tomorrow and all that, it seems like the fans are more attracted to what I used to do. And Mathematics has a great hold on that sound. And he's a part of the Wu. He created the Wu-Tang logo. He was a DJ for the Wu. And he has many credits throughout Wu-Tang Clan's history, from albums, solo albums, all that. So, with that being said, the new album is out. Wu-Tang Clan, produced and conceptualized by Mathematics. It's called Black Samson, the Bastard Swordsman. It's about 12 songs on here, coming in at about 40 minutes, which is crazy, but I'm not complaining either, because I don't need 30 songs. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't know what to do with that. Unless somehow you are able to take 30 songs and make it so amazing. But no, it's probably going to be 2 hours. So I can't. Guest features include, and there's a lot of guest features on here if you didn't know. There's a lot. Uh, for example, Coogee Rap's on here. Coogee Rap verse. Coogee Rap still got it. You know what I'm saying? His verse was crazy though. Coogee Rap's on here. Benny the Butcher's featured on here. RJ Payne, 38 Special, Willie the Kid. Who else? King Crooked is on here. Also, all of the Wu members do show up on tracks, and it's not necessarily like the big Protect Your Neck track. They're sprinkled throughout the project. Like, RZA appears a couple of times. Same thing with Meth. Same thing with Ray. I think Ghost may be on one song, which is crazy. Uh, but the song is called Claudine, and it's pretty dope. Like at first when it started, I was kind of like, this feels like we're going in a different direction after the first two songs. But then once the singing is done in the beginning, the beat opens up and the verses come through and it really sounds dope. Um, for those who don't know, just because I got to say this for the new people, my system is first listen, just grab all the vibes from it. Grab the vibes. Second listen, okay, let's listen in detailed concept, which is black exploitation films, if you haven't guessed. And the third listen is just to confirm my thoughts. Now, for those who need quick reviews, I will say this is a good album. This is another good Wu-Tang album produced by Mathematics. Give the man his flowers. Because if it were up to RZA produced today projects, they either not going to happen or they're not going to be what you expect, like A Better Tomorrow. He talked about that in that Rick Rubin interview. What he was going for, and reluctantly he was just feeling like, yeah, it wasn't it. Even though I remember back then on social media, Wu-Tang stans lying to themselves that this was a great album, just saying generic things like Wu-Tang forever. Like, man, shut up. You're not even talking in detail. You just know that's the thing, and you're just gonna repeat the marketing tactic, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying, what are you even talking about? Shut up. That album was trash. And RZA basically just said it. So give Mathematics his flowers, because I was a little skeptical, and I'm gonna tell you this: it wasn't because he hadn't proved himself as a producer. It was that damn AI first video where I was like, "What is this?" Now I know some people say, "No, it was real people." You can make videos with AI using real people. You just describe the things around them. So that's like if I film a bunch of scenes with you in a green screen, and I tell you, hey, you're fighting ninjas in this one, and hey, you're talking to the Grand Master in this one, and you're doing this, and you're talking to your master, and you defeated such and such, blah, 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 in this scene. And then I take those scenes, I put them in the AI machine, bars. I forget which one people mostly use, but there's a couple of them. And I tell them, in this scene, this guy is fighting 1,000 ninjas, and it'll just create that. 1,000 ninjas in a post-apocalyptic China, like a karate flick. I could put all that description in there and it'll just create it. And I just was kind of like, come on, man. Yeah, announcing the Wu is back. The Wu they're doing their final tour ever. And the first video from this project is some AI karate. Nah, man, that wasn't it. So I was kind of skeptical. And then I was even further skeptical when I pressed play, because not that this is a bad thing, but if I'm anticipating a Wu-Tang album, the first voices I hear on here is Ralph McDaniels, Corrupt, and somebody else. I can't remember who. And it was more so like giving props to the Wu. But I was just kind of like, man, I don't want to hear that. Maybe I've been listening to hip hop for too long, or music too long. Maybe I'm just getting old. But the intros with the yo, man, I want to give a shout out to Mathematics. You doing your thing, keep doing it. Next voice, yo, what's good? I sound like the guy who just called, but I just want to say, nah, man, that does nothing for me. Okay, nothing. Skip. Right. That's what it does. But once we got into Mandingo, it was okay. It was kind of like, I didn't like the Mandingo as much. That's the one that had the AI video, I believe. Mainly because it sounded too much like Wu knockoff. And that's tough to say given the fact that Mathematics has been a part of the Wu for a minute. You know what I'm saying? In many different roles. But it just reminded me of better beats that RZA did. It was too close, way too close. It just felt like, this sounds like Wu. It was kind of proving RZA's point, like the rehashes. But as the album continues, the production is way more varied than I thought. Mandingo is probably the only record to me that sounds like if somebody heard it and RZA, you said RZA didn't do this, you feel like that's knockoff RZA. Song like some of my favorites, the Claudine joint, Shaolin versus Llama, which is Raekwon and Inspector Deck. I skip Executioners from Shaolin. Capadonna's verse is interesting. It's kind of dope. It was more interesting to me because he made a lot of animal references, and this made me think about that trash cover he had where half his face was lion, and it was supposed to be like jungle, but he was just in somebody's yard next to like leaves that fell from a tree. Terrible. One of the worst album covers. Not the worst. I've seen some bad ones, but definitely one of the worst album covers ever. Uh, but the song Executions from Shaolin, it just didn't really do anything for me. And you're talking about a song that got Jizza and Inspector Deck on it. I think it was just the production. Cleopatra Jones was dope with Raycon, Master Killer. Uh, Warriors 2, Cooley High with Benny the Butcher and Method Man is pretty dope. Let's Do It Again, which mostly like Riz is the only one from the Wu featured, but it's like RJ Payne, 38 Special, Willie the Kid, they dominate the track. RJ Payne's verse is crazy. Okay. Crazy with the Wu references. Uh Dolomite was cool, and then the last song is fine, but it's one of those things where this album is, and I know this is going to be a long episode, y'all. Sorry, but it's one of those things where the album is cool. It's not going to give you the Wu is back vibes because it just isn't. But for some new Wu songs, some new verses, it's cool. It's good. Will it be best of the year for me? Like top 5? Hell no. It's just not that good. The albums that I really like right now, I will put them above this. But if the year turns out to be mostly slow and there's a couple of bangers, I'll have no problem adding this because I skipped one track. I mean, that's a good album to me. I don't know about you, but that's a good album to me. So if you've heard the new album by Wu-Tang Clan and Mathematics, Black Samson, leave your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Does it matter to you that it's not produced solely by RZA, even though RZA does appear on his album and sounds good on them tracks as far as his rhyming? Leave your comments in the comment section below. And lastly, so we've been watching videos online of Nas in India. Um, Obviously on business, gotta be, with all the behind the scenes video footage we keep getting. We know that the label he is associated with, Mass Appeal Records, has what is it, seven new albums from 7 rap icons dropping this year, including the Nas and DJ Premier album. And they've been slow with their campaign, but they've been posting on IG different things like, you know, a picture of young Nas and a description about who he was as an MC coming into the game. Then they did another one that was like Ghost, the younger Ghost that you knew. And there's a description about him and his writing style and his success in the game. And I'm not sure where the source of this story came from because I saw it on a couple of different occasions and I just started thinking about it as an MC, as a hip hop fan. And I guess someone asked him, what keeps you hungry in the hip hop game? What keeps your pen sharp in the hip hop game? And Nas said something that was, to me, familiar as a fan of sports, in particular boxing, where he said, and I'll draw the comparisons in a second, but he said, I'm still trying to write my favorite song. I feel like I haven't written a song, and I'm paraphrasing, but I haven't written a song that I can call my best, my favorite. And I think that's pretty dope when it comes to motivating yourself, right? Now, when I say stuff like boxing and comparing it to boxing, it's the reason why some people keep going, even when they're losing, right? Even when they're successful and you see they're still sharp at what they do. Like, for example, like Floyd Mayweather, like he was still quick and sharp at an age where he was supposed to slow down, speed wise, at least. He was definitely supposed to slow down. In boxing, they say the last thing to go is your power, right? Like you can lose your foot movement, you could get hit more, like your defense could get a little lax, but you may still have that power if you can land it. You may throw fewer punches, but with Nas, it's more like Floyd Mayweather after this Hit Boy run of 6 albums in 2.5 years, and most of them being dope by most hip hop heads. I know there's some people who didn't like it. That's cool. You can go sit at the kids' table. But your opinion is your opinion. But I'm saying, I think he looks at it like I haven't done my best yet. And that motivates him to do his best every time he writes new rhymes. And I think that's awesome to think about. And I think if more, not necessarily just older rappers, but if more rappers looked at the game, rappers, MCs, whatever you want to say, looked at the game in that way and were able to feed off of it, I think we would have more music that we could say, oh man, there's so much good music out. Now, I could say that because I listen to a lot of stuff and I think people just miss a lot of albums. But to know that that's the motivation of somebody, that's dope. That tells you they care about what they write, they care about their craft, they care about hip hop. And if someone like Nas, who has so many hits, couple of classic albums, some of the greatest verses ever in hip hop, says he's still trying to write his favorite song, that's something to admire. Now, I know we live in a social media age, and the youngest might be like, that's cat. I'll say to this, I don't see it. I'm sorry. When him and Hit Boy, beyond all the other releases, when him and Hit Boy dropped Magic, you would have thought Illmatic dropped again, the way people were reacting to that album. Like, and then, obviously King's Disease 2 and 3, the way people were acting was like, yo, Nas the GOAT, right? So it's just dope to see that that's his motivation. What do you think about what Nas says there? Do you feel like there's some of your favorite artists who are not really, their pen game is not what it used to be, and you feel like they may not be as motivated as they used to be back when, they were in their prime? Leave your comments in the comment section below. You can follow me everywhere on social media at Vegas World INC. Subscribe to the podcast in audio form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and wherever you get your audio podcast listening. But we are on the road to 10,000 subscribers right here on YouTube by the end of 2025. We recently hit the 6,000 mark for subscribers, and the majority, more than 90% of the people who watch anything on this channel are not subscribed. So if you like the content you're being presented with, subscribe. It's free. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you feel like you have comments and thoughts, share it with me and the rest of the audience that are here, right? 6,000 people see everything, coming from this channel, and they press play, or they read it, or they watch a little bit, or they watch all of it, whatever it may be. Start a conversation in the comments section. It's all love, it's all hip hop, but more importantly, share it with people enjoy this kind of content. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic, I'm a fan. Peace.